folks, let's learn two old-time tunes called John Brown and the Lost Indian. The first thing we need to do is learn a couple of new techniques, maybe new to you, hammer-ons, slides, and pull-offs. So we're going to look at these in detail first, then we're going to learn the two tunes, and then we're going to put the two of them together. And if you know the music of Wee Banjo 3, you may recognize this as one of the very first sets that we recorded. It was on our first album from 2012 called Roots of the Banjo Tree. This is John Brown and the Lost Indian. Let's have a quick look at the first tune, John Brown, because I want to show you where the opportunities arise to create an old-timey feel, because these are old-time tunes, using slides, hammer-ons, and a couple of pull-offs. And I guess what we're trying to emulate here is both the claw hammer or frailing banjo sound, and also the sound of old-time fiddle, which is that kind of lovely double-stop, draggy sound. And by bringing in all of these techniques, we're just kind of creating that vibe. We're trying to achieve the resonance by having the banjo as open as possible. We're trying to bring in that nice old-time flavor, the swing and the flow. For comparison, here's a little bit of the tune if we just played the notes and left out the slides and the hammer-ons. It's absolutely fine. It's just not as much fun, and maybe it's not as old-time vibey as with all of the other stuff put in. If you want to learn the basic tunes, shoot to the end of this video and I will have both of the tunes played slowly and simply, because it is a good idea to get the melody down first before you start putting in all the fun stuff. Let's talk about slides. We're going to use them in two different ways. One is sliding just from one fret to the next, and that's the most common type of slide, which is just the half note slide, or the semitone slide, I guess we'd call it. And the way that you do it is you play the note below the note that you're going for, and you literally make the second note by sliding your finger, by pressing down a little bit, and it's the action of your finger going across the fret onto the second note that makes the sliding sound. It's most common to do slides on the half note, okay? The note we're aiming for is C sharp. Okay, so fret 4. So we will slide from fret 3 up to fret 4. Most slides happen as a crushed note. So the note that we're sliding from doesn't have its own value. That's in kind of musical theory terms. So we play it and we crush it very quickly into the note that we're aiming for. So that would be 3 to 4, C to C sharp. So is that kind of doing? Now you can elongate it ever so slightly, which is almost giving it its own value. But mostly it's the crushed note, so it's quite fast. So that's doing it on a single string. We can also do it as part of a chord, which for these kind of tunes is even nicer. So in this example, we would play the C natural with an open E. Okay, and then immediately slide to the C sharp. So the chord that we play, or the double stop that we play, is actually happening on the crushed note, but it carries through to the note of the tune. The second type of slide that we're going to do is across 2 frets. Up to now, we've been talking about sliding on that half note, fret 3 to fret 4. At the end of the first part, I'm going to play it for you now, we're going to slide 2 frets up and down. And it just creates this lovely, spacey kind of vibe that I like very much. So here's the two. See, can you tell the difference? So the second one is the same principle. We play the chord and then we slide over 2 frets. All right? And so we make the C sharp through the sliding across the 2 frets. We're also going to slide back down to the B, fret 2. We're going to catch that B with our pick because it's leading to the next bar. But we have that nice kind of sound, which is the slide up and the slide down. And that's what gives this nice little bit of interest. Hope you can hear the difference in the two. There's a good bit of work in the second one because you have to press in, slide, and slide back down. Once you see it all notated, it might make either less sense or more sense. Who knows? But hopefully you can see what it looks like. Let's talk about hammer-ons. What is a hammer-on? Well, basically, is you play one note and you make the next note by hammering it with your finger. These can be done in 2 ways. One as the crushed note, like we talked about in slides. So it's like a twing. I'm looking forward to the YouTube caption notation, trying to figure out what dwing looks like. So this is the second part of that tune. So we're doing it as a very strong crush note, and then a slightly elongated crush note. And you can also give the hammer-on its own half note value. So that's the very last measure, the very last bar of that first part is A, C sharp, E. We're going to hammer on the C sharp, but it has its own value, so it's not one of the crushed hammer-ons. Now the picking, of course, with this type of tune, because it's quite slow and there's a lot of room in it, we're not as hard and fast on the down, up, down. But if you wanted to talk about the official rules of picking, when you do a hammer-on like that, you maintain the picking pattern. So you're hammering on what would be an upstroke. So down, hammer on, followed by a down. Just if you're wondering. That's the first part with mostly only hammer-ons. So you can hammer on from the full note, the half note, or the crush note. That's probably the most concise explanation of anything I've ever done. Full note, half note, crush note. The last technique we're going to talk about are pull-offs. A pull-off, simply, you play the note and you make the next note by pulling the string with your finger. Again, these are usually on the crush note, but they can also have the elongated version and sometimes even their own value. That one's a pull-off, that's a crush note. The note we're going for is the E. We'll play the F sharp fret 2 first as a crushed note and then pull off onto the E. Another little brief one that happens at the second part. So these are just little musical accents. When they're worked into the mix of the hammer-ons and the slides, they just create that overall textural tone, which I really like. So there's an overview of the three main types of left-hand ornaments that we're going to use in these two old-timey tunes to give them that kind of claw hammer vibe, hammer-ons, slides and pull-offs. Here's a slowed-down version of John Brown with hammer-ons, slides, pull-offs. There's a few triplets in there as well, but not a lot, because too many picked triplets I find kind of complicates the swing old-time vibe of these kind of tunes. It might sound deceptively simple, but there's a lot going on there. As I'm playing it, I realize that I'm going to notate all of this and I'm going to try and I will capture all of those little hammer-ons, pull-offs and slides. And they're complex to notate. And if you want to get all of that notation, you can do so through Patreon. The link, of course, is in the description. The second tune that we're going to learn, put the two of them together, is called The Lost Indian. Now, this is a fun, quirky kind of tune. The first part has a lot more notes in it, so it's more rhythmical. And then the second part, it has the standard 8 bars, but the way that the tune is composed, it sounds like there's a kind of a pickup measure at the start. So it's a little bit screwy when you listen to it. And even when I went to notate all of this, I was like, is there 8.5 measures in this? And it's standard, it's normal, but it sounds a little bit screwy. And that's probably the fun part. So here it is with all of the kind of fun stuff, because there's lots of opportunities again here for slides and hammer-ons, and bringing out that old-timey vibe. Not so much the right-hand triplets. There's a few, but not a lot. This is the Lost Indian. One thing that you can do in the second half. Now, I didn't do this on the backing tracks that I created, and that's okay. The relative minor of A major. These tunes are in A major. Relative minor is F sharp minor, and sometimes it's nice to throw that in every now and again. So, in the second part of this tune, on the repeat part, so we've played it first part, second part, first part. When you go to that final round, you can bring in an F sharp minor chord sequence and then resolve it at the end. So here's the tune once through, second time round. I've recorded 2 play-along tracks for this at 70 BPM, which is that kind of middle ground rhythm, and 90, which is not fully fast, but it's getting up there. And so you can play both tunes back to back and really get into that old-timey vibe, and there's some cool double bass and mandolin chops and stuff that's in there, kind of capturing the mood and lets you get into the swing of things. If you need to learn the simple versions of the tunes without any of the funny stuff, here is John Brown's. And here, the melody only, The Lost Indian. hope you enjoyed this short lesson for John Brown and the Lost Indian. If you do, please hit the subscribe button and the like button. Leave a comment, tell your friends, send up a smoke signal. And to get immediate access to all of the video lessons and the notation for this, head over to Patreon. There you will find, I think, about 250 video lessons for many, many Irish tunes, some old time. There's even some ballads in there. Full access. There's a ton of stuff. Go check it out. Here are the two tunes played together, just banjo.